right, welcome back to Goshen Rising. Today we have a phenomenal guest for our business casual segment in Goshen Rising. And in this podcast, what we want to do is seek to see self reflection and how it looks in many different faces, many different walks of life, many different career paths to be able to guide not only the youth, but our peers and the older people that take an interest in this type of content. And today we have Souley. Souley, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself and just give a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we can start the segment.
Okay. I appreciate you having me as a part of this, this podcast. One of the most important things to me personally is uh, knowing that I am in some way, shape, or form paying things forward and working with the youth at any capacity to help them with anything that they need, whether it's direction or guidance or emotional support, whatever it is. It's just an honor. I'm honored to be a part of this segment with you. So just to give you some background on myself, I'm actually West African. I was born in the Ivory Coast, and shortly thereafter, my parents moved back to their home country in Guinea. So the first 8.5 years of my life was spent in Guinea. And in 1992, my parents decided to uproot the family and move to the United States. So we moved to Philadelphia. So I grew up in Philly. Don't hold that against me. I know I'm in the DMV area here, Eagles, Redskins. So don't hold that against me at all. But, for the same reasons that most people move their families to the United States, better opportunity for the family, children, better education, school systems and whatnot, I grew up in Philadelphia in an era really in the 90s where most of what I personally heard from adults was, if you want to make something out of your life, you have to go to college, get that education and get that degree. That college degree was highly valued in the 90s. Did that, went to school, graduated, got a degree, graduated from Temple University. And for 2 years, I would go around interviewing from company to company and, wouldn't get a job because I lacked experience. That's the way the world views it sometimes, unfortunately. But everything ultimately, in the moment, you may not understand, but later in life, Steve Jobs talks about when you do some self-reflection on life, you can only connect the dots by looking backwards, not forward. So looking back now, in the moment, I was frustrated because I graduated, got the degree, everything everyone said to me, I felt like I've done and achieved and accomplished and did it. But the reward I was looking for wasn't ultimately there. But looking back now, it happened for me and not to me. I was fortunate enough in 2010 to find the company that I'm currently with, which is American Income, which is essentially it's a union benefits, supplemental benefits insurance company. Okay, so worked really hard and gave it my all, and through hard work, I qualified for the current position that I'm in now, only after 2.5 years. So took a promotion, went to Harrisburg in 2015, did really well there. And the company reached out and asked me if I'd like a shot at running the DMV area, which is a larger market, to grow the company's market share in this area. So, took an interest in that and moved out here in 2017 and, built an agency. So by profession, I'm an insurance agency owner. Okay. And so one of the things that's extremely important to me is that, we don't bring people on board into our agency and our organization just because they're looking for a job. What's more important to me is focusing on helping that person develop themselves, be in a better version of themselves, the youth really, if we can make the biggest impact, it's going to be within the youth to do that. All right, because ultimately it's the youth now that's going to graduate and become that adult that are future leaders and whatnot. So I appreciate you having me on here, and I'm happy to by any way, shape, or form pour into our youth. I appreciate you.
Most definitely. So on in the podcast Goshen Rising, and this is because it's a fairly new podcast. I kind of want to explain the idea behind the name. When we talk about Goshen, Goshen was a plot of land that was very close to Egypt, and the Israelites, they actually inhabited this land until Moses had a revelation from God to take them out of captivity into the land that flowed of milk and honey, where they could be free. And so that's a metaphor for our mind state. Right now, there's so many places in our minds when we're young that we're actually trapped. We're in bondage. But there's always something deep inside of us that yearns for a freedom. And everybody that I speak to on this platform is either achieved a piece of that freedom, or they're heavily on their journey getting to that freedom. And this actual situation that we've created with business casual, what we want to do is give our host a chance to come up with 5 keys that they wish that they could have given themselves at a younger state in their life to make a true difference. And I think that self-reflection will help the youth that are in these situations where these keys could help them at a critical time in their life actually navigate some of the downfalls that may have slowed us down on getting out of Egypt into freedom. So I'm gonna have you start with your first key that you wish, and could you give us the age at which this may have happened to you, where you wish you would have got that key?
Yes, absolutely. So, it's funny. They say there's a saying we've all heard, hindsight is 2020. And again, speaking of 2020, and what we as human beings mostly look at or see when we think of 2020, we think vision, right? That perfect sight, that perfect vision. So that's the first one for me. Okay. Now, in terms of the age piece, I don't know. Uh, I don't know that I can, give you a definitive age, but I can give you a time frame, when I think a timeline, when I think this started to really hit me, okay, personally. But having vision, it's in the Bible too. Without vision, people perish, right? There's all kinds of different ways you can interpret that, the meaning of that. And ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to interpret that. But when you think about that, a vision to me is when you think about the end goal, the end picture, right? If we get in our car today, right, we want to go somewhere. We know where we're going, right? The vision is the destination, right? So there are different ways to take, different roads to take to get to that final destination. But we don't just get in our car and really just drive around, and just make turns here and there. And end up somewhere we didn't envision going. So you got to look at your life in that same light. Okay, you got to look at your life as that vehicle. Okay, so I think having starting with whatever vision, however you envision your life to be, think 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, retirement. What does that look like, for you? Having that vision in mind puts you in a place and in a position where you now have to go to the drawing board to come up with goals and an action plan.
Right.
And an action plan like that we're punching in the destination into the GPS. Now what the GPS is doing is calculating how long it's going to take there, right? What roads to take. If there's a, if there's an accident, what detours and road closures and all this other stuff. So, but it starts with having that vision. So, the best advice I can give people is, especially, younger folks is, you know, start at a young age to try to figure out what direction you want your life to go. Okay. Because once you have that piece figured out, uh, you know, things that are going to happen in your life are going to happen. That's going to lead you to your destination, wherever you're supposed to go. And ultimately, uh, uh, with that vision is not just coming from you. If you envision it, that means God has put it in your heart already. Okay, so it already belongs to you. Now your responsibility is to go out there and get it, and God's going to lead the way and show you how. Just like He did with Moses and the Israelites to lead them to that promised land.
Most definitely. And one of the things that comes to mind while you were speaking is that it's never too young to ponder what your future can look like. You're never too young. I mean, it was so many times in life where I think as a youth, we end up in this state of just wandering around, where we don't know what the next day holds. We only, we can't even tell you what the end of the year would be like. But it makes such a difference, like you said, once you take some time, slow everything down, and just say, wow, what does the next 10 look like?
Yeah.
In 10, that'll easily make you look at the next 5. Then it's easier to look at what the next year should look like. And then it makes it much more clear to figure out what you need to do today to get there. So if one thing I want to let the youth know, if you're having trouble figuring out what to do today, it's because your vision isn't clear for your future. So that's a major key. I thank you so much for that one. What would
For
be
sure. Let me just elaborate on that a little bit too.
okay?
And that's a great point, but to your point, having the vision is probably not enough. I think people, as human beings, I think we ultimately perform better. We do what we're supposed to do when there's someone else, that is there that can help hold us accountable to it, right? You have kids, right? If you tell your kids, look, next month when school is out, I'm going to take y'all to Six Flag, right? So what do kids do leading up to that moment, right? They envision themselves being in Six Flags, having a good time, and all this other stuff. But what do they do daily? They actually talk to you constantly about it. They nag you and daddy, we're going to Six Flags
Accountability.
again, right? So they're holding you accountable to what you say. So having a vision is great, but I think more important is you got to write it down, and like you said, have that clear vision, write it down, and communicate it to people. Communicate it to somebody who is going to, in the right way, push you towards that. Okay, that's your way of telling the world, look, this is what I want out of life. Like if you say, for example, I want to be president of the United States, right? You write that down, you communicate that to people. People in your life are gonna, they're gonna push you towards that because that's what you said you want. Especially, a young child saying something like that means that's a huge deal, So I think communicate it and make sure you communicate it to the right people who will hold you accountable to what it is that you ultimately say you want out of life.
You know what? I love that point because when you tell someone, the accountability rises because you'll have them say, hey, look, I want to do this tonight. And they'll go, that's not what a president would do. Come
Yep.
on, man. And when you become a president, they might pull this back up and it could affect, your campaign. So
Yep.
it almost gives you some guidelines to stay within because you have a future goal that you're trying to get to. So things that seem risky to someone who doesn't have that type of goal, it may become very clear to you that this isn't the path that I want to take because does it help me become president or does it deter me from getting there? So the vision not only helps create a plan, but it also helps create boundaries
Yeah.
for what is intrinsically going to help you reach that final goal in the end anyway. So, oh man, vision is important.
For sure. For sure.
All right. So moving right along, key two. Let's see what it is.
So key two is it's really and this is all kind of tied together to some extent, some degree, because when you say you want something, chances are there is someone else on this planet that's already achieved it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Chances are somebody else on this planet that we all live on has either achieved it or has come close to it, or whatever the case is. So the second key for me is, is doing whatever due diligence that you need to do and research that you need to do to seek out those people, right? To seek, if I want to learn how to build a house, I'm gonna find a carpenter, right? I'm not gonna go, go find a computer engineer. They know how to engineer computers, right?
Right.
I'm gonna go find a carpenter and talk to them and figure out how to build a house and get coaching and training from them. So really, it's researching and identifying the folks and the people who either have or strive to achieve the things you want to achieve, and modeling their behavior. Okay, Kobe Bryant, one of my favorite people of all time, one of my favorite basketball players of all time. So he, I mean, arguably, he, no one can argue the fact that he's top five players that ever played the game of basketball, right? If you do any extensive research on Kobe, what you're going to find is when he was 18, he got into the NBA, right? He immediately sought out Michael Jordan. He immediately sought out Magic Johnson. He immediately, Larry Bird, all of the greats. He sought them out and talked to them constantly. And in fact, first time he met Jordan, in the first 5 minutes, he says, "I love you. Like I look up to you, and I would like to get some coaching and help from you if we can make that possible, right?" So if you follow Kobe's career, like when I tell you he's done so much research on Jordan to the point where he chewed his gum the same way. He stuck his tongue out the same way Jordan did when he shot a shot, right? Same fadeaway shot, same dribble, same like spin move, same exact everything to the T. All he did was look and see, all right, who's the greatest at what I'm trying to achieve, because I'm trying to achieve greatness, right? And he modeled the behavior of that person, okay, down to the T, breathing patterns, every single thing, when he went to sleep, when he went to go practice, when he, would spend time with family. He did all this extensive research and did exactly what Jordan did. And, I mean, go figures. No wonder why he ended up with 5 rings. He came up a little short by one, but ultimately, 5 rings, 5 championship rings in the NBA is a huge accomplishment. So I think, it's modeling. That second key is, find someone who has what you want and just, do as much research as you can on that person and their patterns and behaviors and everything, the way they talk, the way they smile, the way everything. You model that behavior, you'll get the success. If not the same, you'll get similar success that they have in life.
I love that because, like you said, it goes back to mentorship. It goes back to taking a time to really study what it is and who it is has achieved what you want. And I think it that conversation almost sparks a part in me that says, have humility as a
Yep.
young person. Realize that you don't know it all. Realize that somebody out there has accomplished it, and it's better to read their notes on a journey that you're about to travel than to run into every single pothole and misfortune and dead end when this person literally has a roadmap and he could say, take this left,
Yep.
go here, it's shorter, and you can achieve the same thing in probably less time by
Yeah.
having a mentor,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
for sure. And what I say to people about that is, imagine again, like you live somewhere different than I do, right? Let's say we got to go to the gym, right? And and we got to take the same road though. What if I get on the road and not, there's a car accident, backed up? Would you want me to call you and tell you, hey, Miles, listen, I would get off because there's an accident. It's like standstill. Or would you rather just let it go and just let you get caught into the same traffic?
Yeah, call me.
Yeah, you would want to. Yeah, so that's what a mentor is. Okay, that's what a mentor does for you. All right, they call you in times that you need the most. Learn from the mistakes they make. That's the whole, that's the whole purpose and goal. But again, like one of the two things that get in the way, and you mentioned this, was humility. Okay, you got to be humble. You have to be humble enough to cry for the help that you need. We all need help. What person on this planet doesn't need help? Nobody did anything on their own ever. Like nobody. Everyone got help, right? But ego,
Yeah.
people's ego get in the way. And what I will tell you is, egos destroy so many people. Whether it's life, career, relationships, ego destroys everything. And I saw an acronym before: ego standing for edging God out. Okay,
Mm.
when you edge God out, you're allowing your ego to get in the way. All right, and I heard a podcast one time, and I love this, and I actually put it on a T-shirt, and it says, and the guy said, instead of having your ego, why don't you be a host of God on this planet and not a hostage of your ego? Right?
Mm.
Host God on this planet instead of being a hostage of your own ego. All right. So ego is one of the things that we all have it. It's cool. It's okay to have an ego. It's just a matter of utilizing it for the way that it should be utilized. Okay. And be humble, have humility, and take good coaching and direction. My mindset is just, I just sent an email yesterday to our corporate office, because they asked me to do something and I did it right away. They're like, "Oh, thank you for being coachable always." And I replied back, all the executives are on the email, and I say, "Well, my philosophy is this. If if I do what you guys ask me to do and it doesn't work, I have every right to come back to you and say, hey, your plan sucked. Your plan didn't work, so I'm gonna do it my way now. But it's yeah, you gotta be humble enough though. I could say no, I'm gonna do it my way because it's my agency, right?
Right.
But and they're just giving me advice, so that they're here to help me. So if they're here to help me, why wouldn't I listen to what they to the coaching that they're? I'm not gonna allow my ego to get to the get bad to the point that I'm edging them out and edging God out and not seeing my dreams come to fruition.
Most definitely. Trust your coaches, trust your mentors that they
For
have
sure.
the best for you until proven otherwise. I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Yeah.
that. All right, moving forward. Key three. This is going, I love it.
Key three. And this is not a an easier one for me to be open about. But I know that being open about it can definitely help other people. So um, we live in a world, unfortunately, where you know there's a good amount of people out there who are just out for themselves. They're just selfish individuals, right? It's just, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. I'm the complete opposite of that. My mindset is, how can I help you, how can I serve you, how can I do this for that person, how can I help my community, how can I help my family. That's my mindset. And there's been times in my life, uh, from a young age too. There's been times in my life where I've been unfortunately taken advantage of. How they say people take your kindness for weakness. Being a victim of that, it's not something easy to go through, because you're focused on what you feel in your heart is what's best, and that's what you're doing, right? But then someone comes around and you know, their mindset is what's in it for me, and they, you know, see that, and they see that you're a little, you know, softer, if you want to call it that. Okay, so they pounce on that. They take full advantage of that. You know, I think that's extremely important. You know, that's an extremely important lesson that I personally learned. And if I can help someone else not, you know, think that, not be naive about what actually is happening in the world, because ultimately, be kind, be nice, do great things, right? But you do have to, it's on you to also protect yourself in the process too, because nobody else, don't expect anyone else to do it for you. You have to be the one that protects yourself.
I love that. I mean, I'm a business owner myself, and we get into business to be able to have the time to invest. You know, you start something in order to have extra, to have that extra work for you. And sometimes you don't realize you're most vulnerable when you have something extra. You know, when you broke, you guard it really hard. You know, you make sure that anybody that's trying to touch this little bit that you have has been thoroughly vetted. But the mindset kind of becomes stagnant a little bit when you have extra. And
Yep.
sometimes you don't notice that there are parasites around
Yep.
eating and eating and eating until one day you look in the basket and you like, hey,
Oh,
you took way more than
yeah.
what, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, what happened? But
Yeah.
like you said, it's that kindness being taken for weakness, and people will take until you set a boundary
Yep.
that no, it stops here. It's,
Yep.
you know, so have boundaries sooner than later. I would, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Set boundaries sooner than later. You know, and it still happens as adults too. Because naturally, here's the thing, you know, people naturally they try to see what they can get away with, right? And this starts from a tender young age, from like when you're a child, right? Just think of, you know, think of how often you got to tell the kids to stop doing something, right? And they push the envelope as far as they can go, right? And they see what they can get away with. All right. So that's just the behavior that people carry on throughout the course of their lives. You know, and ultimately for those folks too, you know, if you start that cycle, if you see that cycle, you got to do your best to try to break that cycle. Like I have a son too, you know, and I try to instill these things within him to not try to get away with, you know, certain things, because reality is this. Reality is this. Uh, the world has its punishments, right? Right. God has his own, you know, set of rules and laws and guidelines and punishments too, right? uh but ultimately, you know, you got to have your own too. You know, you got to have your own too. All right, you know, because if we, you know, this is why we teach kids, like, if you do XYZ, here's the consequence, right? The reason we teach them that at a young age, because when they get older, whatever we allow them to get away with, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Why? Because new friends are going to come into their lives when they go to a new school. When they go to high school, now we got, you know, we got drugs and alcohol and all this college. You know, we have different influences in their lives, and you know, if you focus on teaching that child, you know, how to, or you know, the fact that they should always, no matter what's going on, do what is right. You know, because again, the world punishment is, when you're an adult, you do this, you get caught, it's prison, jail, right? Whatever. So we have to have, you know, at a smaller scale, of course, but we got to have those guidelines for them as kids as well. You know, we can't just allow people, the world, just imagine the world with no laws and no rules.
Oh yeah.
How chaotic it'd be.
Oh
You know, how chaotic would it be?
yeah.
Anyone can just do whatever they want whenever they want, and you know, just imagine how much advantage people would take, you know, take of others.
Most definitely. And you know what? That brings up a thought of how important it is to have self boundary. Like
Yeah.
you said, um, the more you let yourself get away with lying, you become a liar. The
Yep.
more you let yourself get away with stealing, you become a stealer. The more you let yourself get away with, um, my mother's favorite word growing up, trifling, being trifling, not procrastinating. you know, you become a procrastinator and
Yep.
you never see what it feels like to
Yep.
achieve your goal. So what's really the problem with that? It's that you have no boundary, you have no accountability for yourself. And once again, to the youth, to the peers, even to the older folks, reassess your boundaries for yourself, reassess how much you let yourself get away with, because I guarantee you it's a reflection of where you've made it in life.
Yep.
You know, the discipline comes with accountability.
Yep.
So
The key thing there is this, uh, people by nature are habitual. We are creatures of habit. Whatever habit we form, we usually revert back to it at some point in our lives. So if you create negative habits in your life as a child, as a teenager, you're going to repeat them. As an adult, you're going to, but they're going to be adult habits though. So they're going to be a lot, on a larger scale than just a childhood, poor habits of lying and whatever the case is. It gets to the point where you're people really get themselves in really good and really bad trouble just because they can't be honest. My philosophy is just tell the truth. Whatever happens, happens. It's going to happen anyway. You know what I mean? Lying just makes it even worse. It doesn't do anything to help the situation. It just makes the whole situation overall worse. But you know, learn to form those habits that you want. And this is what I tell our newer representatives when we train them is our job is to teach you the right habits for this business, for this industry. Okay, so we got to get you in the right. People come in and they think because they've done XYZ somewhere else they can kind of transfer the the skills, and all skills are transferable. Okay, however, every business is different too. If I if I went into your business trying to do what we do in our business, it probably wouldn't work. Okay, it works well for you and it works well for us. So we try to get people in the right. We reprogram them and get them in the right habits of our particular business so that they can get the success that they come here for as well. So just create the right habits early on. This way, you don't have to worry about trying to change them later, because habits are not easy to break, are not easy to change. They are hard to break and
most
change.
definitely. And I think a rule that I would like to throw out there is everybody knows somebody
Yep.
who is very accountable, and everybody knows somebody that if you ask them to do something, you really don't know if it's going to happen or not. You're surprised if it does.
Yeah.
And look at both of those people's lives and say, who do I really want to be?
Yep.
Do I want to be the accountable person that when somebody calls me, they know it's done? Or do I want to be the person where if somebody asks me, they like, I'm gonna go ahead and get a backup because I know for a fact this is not going.
Well, that goes back to the other point, modeling. The point number two,
Yeah,
right? Find the person who has what you want, the direction you want your life to go, and model them, not the others.
most definitely,
So this is why it's all tied in together.
definitely, definitely. So I think we're on point 4 now.
Four. Yep.
All right.
So, and this one is one of um, the most important things when it comes to life. We uh, are we take rejection. When I say we, people, right? We take rejection really hard sometimes. Okay, and rejection is a part of living, right? I mean, how many times have you asked your parents when you were growing up, or aunts and uncles, can you have something? They said no.
Right.
You're still breathing today, aren't you? You're still living, right? How many
Exactly.
times you're in business? How many times have you gone to someone with some kind of presentation or pitch and they turned you down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, again, what I mentioned earlier. How many interviews that I go to, they said no to me because I didn't have experience. All I knew was I know I'm going to work hard, right? But they were not willing to take a chance on me. So one of the things I mentioned was, connecting the dots, looking backwards. If you do some self-reflection and you look backwards, the major rejections that you've gotten in your life, uh, probably happened for you and it didn't happen to you in the moment. Now, here's the thing. In that moment, you're frustrated. You're like, oh my God, what is going on? The sky is falling. This is happening. That is, why me? What, poor me, right? Pity me. All right. But if you really do some deep self-reflection, you'll see that it actually was happening for you. It was maybe you weren't ready for it at that time. You know, I used to say all the time, I wish I found this company when I graduated high school. I don't think I would have gone to college, you know. But you know, my state director used to say to me, my coach and mentor, he used to say to me, well, you got to look at it from a different lens, you know, because maybe you weren't ready for it, you know, you weren't mature enough, whatever. Certain things had to happen in your life for you to be prepared for it. And then when I started to think about it, I'm like, wow, because I worked at IKEA before I worked at this company, and what I did there, you know, is work there part time, and I sent, you know, their furniture comes flat packed, right? Okay, so I assemble furniture on the side, you know, to make ends meet, make extra money or whatever, while I got through college, and even after I graduated college, while I was interviewing with other companies. So uh, that actually involved me talking to people, asking them if they wanted a product or a service, right? And you know, getting their contact information, calling them, scheduling an appointment, going out to their house to do a service or provide a service for them, and getting paid for that. That's exactly what my business is. You know, when I first started, that's exactly what I had to call clients, right? Union members who we work with, schedule an appointment, go to their house, do a presentation, provide the product and service we do, and that's how I got paid. So it was preparing me for that. But I had done, like, you know, 3 years of that. So, you know, I knew how to be in someone's house and just have a normal conversation and be relaxed, and you know, help them, and do whatever I needed to do my job that I signed up to do. So that kind of, you know, prepared me, and it taught me certain things that I don't think I would have that I know for sure I needed to be successful where I am today. So I think that so my fourth point is accepting rejection to be, you know, to be a blessing for you, and not thinking about the moment, okay, that you're being rejected. You know, when I say being rejected is when you know, when you try to get a job and you can't land one and that kind of stuff. Rejection is a part of living. We get rejected all the time. People say no to us, companies say no to us. It's a part of life, and the ultimate thing you have to, you know, you have to learn to live with is yourself, knowing that you actually dealt with it the way you should have dealt with it. Okay, because just because, you know, this door is closed, that means God has a plan to open a bigger one for you. So it's your duty and your responsibility to not try to step over what God is trying to do, and just let God do his work, you know, through the situation that you're currently going through.
Yeah, and it brings to mind a thought of people love to celebrate the doors that God opened for them, but very rarely do we celebrate the doors that He closed.
Yep.
You know, we don't look back and say, like, wow, if this would have happened, or if this door would have been open, like you said, too soon, you may have gotten into that company, squandered the opportunity because you thought, oh, well, I can just get another one. It's simple. And the younger you are, the more you can't recognize a truly amazing opportunity when it presents itself.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and that comes with rejection, like you said. Like you get rejected enough, you see people try to offer you what you're not worth enough. When the proper deal comes along, it's much easier to spot, and then you appreciate it a lot more, knowing you've been rejected. You know, knowing that, wow, I fought through all of that to get to this point where now I'm actually in a place of favor because the door has opened, you know. So yeah, I love that. I mean, I like you said, you worked at IKEA, I worked at Nordstrom's.
There you
That
go.
was
Look at
like
that.
one of my first jobs, and I sold women's shoes.
Yeah.
And it's easy to sell a shoe. It's easy to sell shoes to women, trust me. But
Yeah.
every
They're
once
looking
in a
for
while,
them.
yeah, they looking for a reason to buy some shoes, trust me.
Yeah.
But it does get tough when you get rejected, you know. And having that resilience prepared me for my company. Like when I was knocking on doors, going door to door, hey, can we clean your office space? What? Why would I trust you? You 19 years old, man, get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
And I just go right to the next door, clack, knock,
Yeah.
knock, knock, until somebody says, you know what? All right, come on in. Now I'm gonna clean that place like it's never been cleaned before,
Yeah.
because I understand that this opportunity is rare. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna appreciate it because I I know what those spaces look like when it's no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if somebody does give you a yes, appreciate it, you know.
Yeah. What one thing that to Colonel Sanders, we all know, founder of KFC. Okay, he retired, and after he retired, he took his Social Security check, which was like, I don't know, $89 a month or something like that. So he would go around the country. He had a really good chicken recipe. He would go around the country, knocking on restaurants' doors, asking them, hey, I got this really good chicken recipe. I don't want to sell it to you. Okay, well, all I want is you to use it, and I'll take whatever 10%, 15% of your sales. And all these people shut their doors in his face. Okay, when you think about that, someone who's retired in their 60s, late 60s, and that passion and that resilient. All right, when you think about the average person, right? The average person, how many times do you think they would get people to say no, and then they say, all right, I don't think this chicken recipe is all that good, and quit,
Right.
right?
Don't
So,
come in.
so what a lot of people don't know is uh, it took him 1,009 doors to be slammed in his face for him to get the yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
But we all know the rest is history, right?
Most definitely.
The rest is history. That one sale out of 1,010 times he tried, right? That one person said yes, the rest is history, right? Thomas Edison with the light bulb
Oh,
took him 10,000 times to fail at the light bulb. If he'd stopped, if he gave up, would we have this right now? I don't know. I'm not saying we wouldn't, but just it's the resilience, right? You gotta keep going and understand that rejection is a blessing in disguise, and you gotta learn to get through it and get past it. What I say to my people is this: look, there's not one company out there that has a product that's so good or a service that's so good that anybody who sees it automatically buys it. I mean, we can argue that Apple has probably the best phone out there, right? We can argue that. A lot of people think Android's whatever.
right.
But as good as Apple's phones are, that we think they are in their products, everyone who sees it doesn't have an iPhone. People have Androids, people have this kind of phone, people have that kind. It doesn't happen, right? Not everyone's going to say yes to you, but the amount that will say yes will outweigh the no's that you've gotten along the way. So the no's are temporary. They're just, I need to know more. So go find out more. Go find that more information you need to give to people so they can say that yes to you.
And you know what? I love that point because one of the things that I realized early on owning a company is that it takes a very small amount of money to actually sustain your life.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they get into business, they think, oh, I didn't crack this $1 million in the first year, so it's a bad idea. And it's like, no, maybe you haven't found the structure to get to that million yet. And it brings me to a point, like you said, with the rejection. It's like, even though you're being rejected, ask questions. Why did you reject me? So
Yep.
maybe you can go back and reformulate, and the next person you come to, it just keeps getting perfected and perfected and
Yep.
perfected until you have a sales pitch that's very, very hard to say no to, because
Yep.
you've taken all of the rejections and actually put them in your toolkit, and you build a product or a service that is just so undeniable that more people start to say yes than no. And
No.
now you have a viable business that's actually profitable and can swim. And you made
Yep.
it
Yep.
theoretically, you know?
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
most definitely. All right, moving on to our last point. This has been absolutely amazing. I hope y'all getting something from this. Thanks, Souley, so much in the comment box for stopping by. And Hit them with the last one, Souley. Hit them with the last one.
All right, last one. It's probably, and this again, ties. It ties into the other four, especially for the first one. It ties into the first one more than the others. But life is about decisions. It's choices, right? You got to make a lot of decisions in your life. You know, from a young age. From I was doing some research, and uh, human beings start to develop, the intellect to know, the right from the wrong. Right now, whatever that right is and that wrong is, ultimately, we have our own set of guidelines based on our upbringing and all this other stuff in society. But from under 2 years old, from 18 to 24 months, we start to know what's right and what's wrong. I think that uh, the more common decisions that people make, uh, especially when they treat each other, bad or wrong or whatever the case is. I think that it's a conscious decision that's made, uh, but sometimes people are constantly playing the victim, and they think that they're making that decision because they have to, or whatever the case is. Now, don't get me wrong, we are programmed to find a way to survive in this world. Okay, that's just how the human race is programmed and wired. Animals too. Animals are programmed to survive and live, right? So it's more of a human reaction to make whatever decision that you personally feel would help you survive that situation or that moment. Okay, but life ultimately is about choices. It's not about, we know right from wrong. Okay, and uh, the way I think we fail each other as people, when we choose to make the wrong decisions, knowing it's going to hurt somebody else. We can do better as a human species. Okay. There are some great people out there, and there are some not so good people out there. But overall, I think if we all come together, unified, I think we can make for sure better decisions, especially, when it comes to the way we treat and speak to and help each other and work with each other. But knowing that life is about, making decisions and choices, one thing that I'd recommend, especially for, our teens out there, our younger kids, our future, is that whenever you're in a space where you have to make a decision, don't make the decision like most other people make the decision. Most other people make the decision to get instant gratification. Okay, they do what either will help them again get out of that situation, or get over it, or what feels good in the moment, right? So um uh there's so many situations out there, and just like a perfect example, so when you have, when you infidelity, take for example, right? When a spouse or a significant other cheats on their mate, right? It's they're doing whatever they're doing in the moment because it feels good,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can't think that way. You got to think, all right, what are the long-term effects of this decision? I know sometimes you got to make a quick decision. You don't have time to process or think about anything, which is fine. But this is where the habit part comes back, right? If you have formed a habit of always doing the right thing, your brain and your mind naturally goes to, hey, this is what's right in the situation, right? So don't make decisions for the moment. Okay. So think 5 years from now, right? If I make the decision that I'm going to make right now, will the person I am 5 years from now, will they say thank you to me? Will they come back to the today me and say, hey, thank you for making that decision? The person 10 years from now, will they come back to me and say, hey, thank you for making that decision because you chose to do XYZ? I am here today. So I want to thank you for that. So, if anything, if you're going to be, if you're going to be a selfish individual or think selfishly and want to so think ahead, think about the future. Okay. So many times I see people like, I just extended an offer to someone last week. When I was on vacation, so I just extended an offer to someone, and with our business. So the first thing we got to do is we got to get people licensed to do our job, because you have to have a license issued by the state to be able to provide insurance services. So I noticed she wasn't going through the course to get licensed, and I reached out to her, and I say to her, "Hey, I'm not sure. I hope everything's okay, but it looks like you haven't been working on a course. Is everything good? Can you make a commitment to work on it?" Her response was, "I'll work on it this weekend, but if I don't finish, like, because they pay a portion, I cover a portion of the course for them. All right, now I cover 150 of it for them. They pay $49 for this course, right? So the bigger investment is made by me. She responds back and saying, "Is there a way to get my $49 refund?" I responded to her and I said, "Well, it sounds to me like you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door. So are we like 100% committed to one another here, or it's like having a wife and saying, 'Hey, I'm gonna have a girlfriend on the side. You cool with that?'" You know what I mean? So so um I said to her, it seems like we're not 100, or are we 100% committed to one another? She came back and she was honest. She says, "Not really. I don't want to waste your time. My passion is to work my business and start my business and work it and whatever." So, I say, "Cool. I wish you the best." And then she replied back saying something. And I said, "One piece of advice I'd give you as a business owner is, if you want to build a business, you need to stop everything else. Okay. You need to not worry about anything else. Work on your business." She says, "Oh, I just need a job so I can pay my rent." I say, your rent can't be that much that you just need a job. If you focus on your business, if you try to work these side jobs, all you're doing is taking time away from building your business.
Right.
And she's thinking short sighted. She's thinking, how can I pay my rent right now? I get it. Sometimes people get into financial situations where they got to make certain decisions based on that. But you have to learn that sometimes you may have to put something aside for the greater good, for the bigger picture. If you really want to build your business, you got to focus on the future, not in the moment. Let me get a buck right now. A buck pays your bills right now. I think long term. So I'm thinking 10 years from now. I'm thinking 15 years from. I'm thinking retirement. When I retire, I want to travel the world, right? See all these different countries and all these things talked about in the Bible. I want to go to these countries and places and visit them and see, so the advice is, make sure that when you are making a decision, don't think about the current moment. Okay. Think about the future. Think about 3 years from now, 5 years from now, because this decision you make today will impact your life later on as well.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I do think that most people, because I've started and gone through the process of owning a business, it's very easy to spot those who are going to make it as opposed to those who probably aren't. Because, like you said, it's the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I kind of want to make a jump, but I think the most dangerous thing is to look over an edge so long that you accidentally just fall
Yeah,
in.
fall into it. Yeah.
So a business, be prepared for the jump. If that means, all right, I got to take a step back in my lifestyle. I may have to move back in with somebody. I may have to get a roommate. I may have to do whatever I have to make these bills as small as possible for this amount of time. And after I hit this goal in the business, then I can find my own place and start to get back that normalcy that you get from working a regular job. Understand that it's going to take a sacrifice. And like you said, can you look 5, 10 years down the line, and will you be glad that you gave up some temporary comforts in the moment? Or will you be sad that you couldn't do it and now you're still stuck in that same place
Yep.
that you were, just hand to mouth, and you never can get to a place where you can step up, breathe, and make some decisions where you have options in your life, you know?
Yeah.
So, man.
And life is you know, you have to make a certain sacrifice. You have to give up something to get, you know, if you say I want XYZ, there's something that has to be given up for that. You know, there's something that has to be sacrificed for that. And that sacrifice, you know, sometimes it could be, I don't know, it could be time away from family sometimes, you know, especially in business. It could be you know, time away from friends. You can't hang out with friends as much as you used to. You know, I know when I first started this business, that's exactly what it was for me, right? It was time away from the family. It was time away from friends while I was working hard. You know, all my friends are at the bar hanging out and, you know, having good conversations, all this, that, and the third, taking vacations. I didn't do that, right? I was just in grind mode. But you know, it got to the point where when we went out, I'm paying for everything, you know. So it's not that I'm not trying to make it about the money, but it's the point is, you know, something was given up for that to, you know, that to be the case. So you always got to give up something to get something. You can't just go around in life and thinking, oh, all right, I just want this. All right, so let me go get it. No, there's something. What's the big thing that has to be given up? What are you willing to give up to get what you want is the question you always got to ask yourself.
Yeah, and the whole "you can have it all" is a lie. You
Yeah.
can have it all, just not at the same time.
Yeah, facts.
You know. So thank you so much, Souley, for coming through, dropping these beautiful gems for the youth, for our peers, and for the elders amongst us that still seek to learn. You know, because I truly believe everybody is a walking class that I'm willing to attend, because you never know what you can learn from.
Love that.
So thank y'all so much for tuning into Goshen Rising. Thank you for listening to the Business Casual. And we just got to show more love to all of our guests that come on, like Souley, who have come from one place, made it to another, and is willing to pay it forward and leave us with some gems. So until next time, peace.